This is Out Loud and Laughing. What is up, Chosen fam, and welcome back to Out Loud and Laughing. Today, we are sitting down with an absolute warrior for our community's mental health and emotional liberation. He is a licensed therapist, a visionary founder, and the clinical director of Arrive Therapy. In a world that is constantly trying to debate, edit, or quiet trans and queer existence, he has dedicated his life to creating sanctuary spaces where trans, non-binary, and LGBTQ plus individuals can step into their power, heal from religious and systematic trauma, and truly arrive as their authentic selves. Please welcome to the pod, the incredible Alexander Stefanini. Hey, Alexander, welcome.
Hi, thank you.
Alexander, who is now a good friend of mine after meeting you earlier this year. We are so honored to have you in the studio with us today. It's been a long time coming. Before we dive into the details and all the heavy states of the world, we want our chosen fam to kind of get to know you a little bit. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself as well as more around Arrive Therapy?
All right, so let's start with me. I'm a licensed therapist. I'm a father of two kids. One is 15, one is 5. So there's a big age range between the two of them. Both of them are adopted. They happen to also to be biological cousins to each other. So it's really a sweet kind of like chosen family that we have. I am engaged as well. So we're just like a sweet little family. And I was raised in the Southeast with a very religious family that did not really prepare me to be part of the LGBTQ community. My parents were missionaries, so I spent most of my childhood also in other countries in Latin America, which really for me, even though there is some challenges to having been raised as in a very religious home, as an LGBTQ person, I also got to watch so many really great things. I got to have such a unique childhood where my dad was starting churches, really taught me how to build a business. I didn't really realize that was like teaching me how to build a business, but a church is a business. So I watched him build churches over and over again. So I came into the helping profession, I think, really out of kind of like, so having Arrive Therapy and being a therapist kind of comes out of growing up in a helping home, a home that really like took care of people, took care of homeless, was there for crises, was really like working with people who needed help and support. So, I then became a therapist. I kind of struggled as a lot of trans teens do in high school. I had a therapist who kind of said to me, I think you'd be a good therapist. Just something away about like my mind worked. So that kind of stuck with me when I went into college. I really wanted to work with teens teens and families where I felt like there wasn't enough support for me. And I didn't really feel like I had the kind of support that I wanted. So, as I moved through my adulthood, and I in my 30s, I came out as trans and started my transition. I was the clinical director of a program that had a lot of people, knew who I was. And so people started coming to me and asking me to see their trans patients that were coming out of residentials and different places. And, I graduated in 2004 with my master's degree. So we didn't study anything. I don't think gay people were mentioned at all.
Nope.
Like I remember at that time, like diversity and inclusion was like a brand new concept. It was like, what is this? So I thought, well, I don't really know. I haven't studied gender studies, but let me just try my hand at this because I'm going through this myself. And that's kind of how Arrive Therapy started, was really out of a need at that time, in particular, like 8-9 years ago, there were not any trans clinicians, hardly at all. Now there's so many more, which is great. So many are coming out of school, and a lot of those people are working for us, which is awesome. So there was really a need there. And because I had worked with, teens and families at that time, that's a lot of the new clients that I was getting, like teens that were coming out, parents that were really struggling with that. And so Arrive Therapy really happened organically. I found that I loved doing the work, and it was just like a really amazing intersection between my lived experience, my professional experience, and then just what was happening right in the community. So that's how it started. And then it's kind of evolved and grown from them. I never really had a master plan to have like a huge practice. But now I love it, and we've got a really great team. And that's Arrive Therapy. You kind of work with everybody in the LGBTQ community. I think our focus definitely is trans and non-binary folks. But I love working with parents. I love working with siblings who've got a trans sibling, just anybody really who's connected to the LGBTQ community in some way.
Thank you for sharing that entire journey. I find it fascinating. I found so many twists and turns around your journey, thinking like, was this the spark that like ignited Arrive? And, you spoke to it as it was sort of this organic need. My question to you though is to kind of double tap on that. Like, what was that moment where you were like, we need to build a new space to help the journey for others be different than my own? What were you imagining you would offer or bring to that space?
As I started seeing trans and non-binary clients, I initially went and did that in another group practice that were really wonderful, really wanted me there. Really, I brought a bunch of clients with me. They really wanted my trans and queer clients there. But I still found that the space didn't feel entirely safe, right? Like they'll come into a waiting room. There's lots of other people, just sort of like from the, regular community. Our admin assistants, even though they were wonderful and lovely, they just didn't always quite know how to engage with my clients. And I
Yeah,
just thought, yeah, this is a lovely space, but I really want something that is like everybody who walks in the door pretty much knows that anybody in the waiting room is either an ally, a parent of a trans kid who brought them here to get support, or they're a trans or queer person themselves. And so it's just like, even I think from the very first phone call, I think people's experience is different, right? They know they're talking with somebody who is trans or queer. This is a space that's really intentional for people in our community instead of like, yeah, well, I kind of, this is probably a safe place. Like they want us here. And so, my vision was always to have more of is almost like a community center. Like I want to create a lot of community stuff. That's why we do groups. We do a lot of groups and those are really
right,
meant to be support groups. They're not therapy groups. They're to really connect people who are going through the transmasculine experience or the parent of a trans kid experience and really just build community. And I do find that we have a lot of interest right now for groups because people are wanting to connect. They're feeling like, oh, I need to really be connecting with people that can understand me and I can feel safe with. So I also really wanted to have just like a physical space when people could come in and like even if they just wanted to come in and just sit there, they could come in and sit, and not just a space that felt like for them. So that was really like my dream and my vision, as well as doing all the mental health pieces. Yeah.
I mean, you speak a little bit about community, which I think is so important because there's such value in safety with people, right? And feeling connected, shared experience, but also I feel safe to have this conversation. And, not to get too dark, but obviously, let's talk about the environment we're all navigating right now, right? Today's political landscape is hard, right? Especially for the trans community in our community, because there's so much rhetoric and it's very hostile. And I think people in our community are just tired of it. How do you see this socio-political pressure manifesting in the therapy room though? Is it coming up a lot? Is it affecting people? Like and how is it affecting people to feel safe to continue their journey, right?
Yeah. I mean, I see it affecting people in a whole wide range of ways. I mean, I do think that across the board, people's distress levels are just higher. Like it's like they wake up with higher distress, they walk through the world with more fear. Um, there's a lot more just like mental chatter of fear, like what's going to happen, what is happening. So I think that impacts everything else with somebody's mental health, right? That's kind of where like the intersection of your trans or queer identity, but particular trans identity and all the other stuff you might have going on with your mental health, like trauma and relationship stress or whatever, it all just kind of like compounds. Or for teenagers, right? They're developing, they already feel vulnerable. They already don't quite know who they are in all these other ways in their life. And then you're adding this like intense distress, right? And teens know everything that's happening. They probably know sometimes more than the adults do. So I think it's elevating people's distress. But the cool thing that I really see, and I think, I have a certain subset that I'm really like have a view into because I've got people who are in therapy, right? So who have probably more support than other folks do who are not in therapy, maybe are living in really places where they have no support at all. But I would say for our clients, what I've been really impressed by is sort of like the tenacity and the bravery of people. I really thought like when Trump was reelected and all these initial kind of like executive orders happened, and I was like, everybody's going to be in crisis. We're going to have so many suicidal clients. We are going to have people just going back in the closet. Like people are just going to retreat. And I didn't see that. Like I was really shocked, like across the board. I was like, I had so many people come in and say, I've been putting off my name change. I've been putting off my surgery, just kind of feel like dealing with it. And like, I'm going to do this now in case it's never available. Right.
Mm.
So there's a whole subset of people that I saw coming in going like, actually, no, like I'm going like, you can't stop me. I'm going to do it before I can't. I do think there are some people who have delayed, like maybe they're out in most of their life. Maybe they're not out at work. And so they've delayed something like a name change or a gender marker change because they really want to be careful. And I really find that typically tends to be trans women for like, which really makes sense for them for safety. They're like, wait, if I'm not entirely passing and my driver's license says female and I get pulled over by the cops or something at work, like they just are being more cautious in some way, which really makes sense, right? So I think that we really try to encourage people to go forward in their transition as much as they can, but also without um like negating or denying like some of the risks that are there, right? It's like in an ideal world, everybody who wants to transition would just like go and do, right? And I find that in this particular climate, people are having to make these places of like compromise, right? Where I can be out everywhere and then here's a place where I can't and I'm going to do that and I'm going to decide that that's not safe enough to do in this like climate, right? Whereas I feel like 3 years ago we would have pushed through that and they would have like kept going. And I just really validate and like affirm that sometimes that is the right decision. You know,
Yeah.
it's not a one size fits all where you should it's only right to do everything with transitioning, right? It's just not like that, but especially now. I'm gonna think of some other things. I would want to say that in our practice, at least, and this has convinced me more of the importance of therapy for people who are transitioning. Although, of course, I don't think it should be mandated. But for me, the importance of it is that I don't see our clients like with a significant uptick in suicidality or any kind of significant uptick in suicidal attempts, which I think is happening in the broader community. Right. So it just reiterates more that right like all this research studies that like if there's enough support, if people have enough support and they have enough community, they're going to be okay, right? Even through the hardship, right, of transition or living in the world that we're living in. I'm finding that to be true for our clients.
And you built this space, and by even saying that, like seeing this uptick of community members coming forth for assistance in this administration and sort of in this climate only speaks to the resilience and the power of like creating these safe spaces, right? Essentially, if they didn't exist, then they would just be sort of nailed down to the ground.
Yeah.
And a lot of this fear and hostility is completely just, first of all, it's bullshit. Second of all, it's fueled directly by the media and narratives that come out of it that deliberately take trans lives out of context. I think they do that for all of the letters of the alphabet. Unfortunately, right now, it feels that all targets are on the trans community. If there was one myth or misconception about the trans community that gets continuously perpetuated that you wish could be completely erased from the public consciousness, is there something that comes to mind when that question is asked, or how does that make you feel, or what does that make you think about?
Man, there's so many things.
Yeah, I'm sure.
um I think the one thing that comes to mind is that I hear all the time, right? Like that um well, you know, you're biologically a woman and like, well, you're biologically a man or whatever. You can never be, right? And it's just like, we know that, like, we know how we were assigned at birth. Like, we know what bodies we had or we had as we were growing up. And it's like, at least for myself, I can say personally, like, I'm not pretending to be a cis person.
Yeah.
Most of us are not actually pretending that we were born a cis person. We were born in the bodies we identify with. And so there's this like big, I feel like misconception that we're trying to convince you that I'm like a cisgender biological male from birth, right? That's just not, I don't see that across the board. Like we're not stupid, you know?
I think that's actually a really good clarification. I find that very insightful myself. So I appreciate your
Yeah.
vulnerability in sharing that.
I would say the other thing is that there's just really, I think people really believe that every single trans person wants to medically transition and that there's this exact step by step that every trans person is going to do all these things. And I don't find that to be true at all. There is obviously a certain percentage of people that want to do all the steps of transitioning and want to have surgery and want to have all the surgeries, but I actually find that to be a small majority of people who want to have all the surgeries available to them. I really find it's like people, I think that another misconception, there's so many, is that like people just do this for fun. Like,
God.
they just do it. It's like, it is so much work. It is so much work emotionally to get through all your own transphobia. It is so much work logistically, legally, medically. I mean, it's just like, I have never had one person ever come in and be like, I'm just so excited I'm trans. Like, I'm so excited this is happening to me. Now, there is a lot of joy. I mean, that's one of the things I love about what I do is that I'm just not working with people who are working on their mental health issues. Like, I'm really working with people who are like manifesting who they are. They're really
Yeah.
just arriving into life as themselves. And there's so much joy about that. And I
And
love
beauty.
to see it's beautiful. It's really
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
And so trans people are fucking brave. I mean, like,
Yeah.
I don't know any hardly braver people, right? Than people who are willing to just like fly in the face of everything they've ever been told to really do that kind of like deep work on themselves and know who they are and be able to, even in their own minds, make peace and like get through the barriers that we have about like, right, when there's opposition outside of us, there's a lot of opposition inside to like really being okay with who you are. So I think people think, trans people are mentally ill and we're like crazy. And actually I find trans people to be very smart, very insightful, and very brave. I mean, yeah,
And,
Yeah.
other things,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like gritty, persistent in the face of opposition. I mean, like,
No, it goes on and on.
yeah. So
I have a question to end before we go into our game about you. But before I do that, I actually have a question that came to my mind. But like, you're building these safe spaces, especially with therapy, right? You have someone in the room with you that you're having a great conversation with. There has to be moments where you, as humans, can also just laugh together, right? In that safe environment. Like, can you talk a little bit about the lighter part of it? Because I do think there's value in saying, "Oh, I went through that. Oh, that's so funny," type of situation, because you haven't been able to say that to anyone else. So what's that like?
I mean, I just think one of the benefits of working with a trans therapist is there's a lot you don't have to explain. There's a lot of things you can communicate with an eye roll, or you can communicate with like, oh my God, like, you know what I mean? And it's just like, yeah, I know what you mean. And sometimes there is a laugh, right? Like sometimes people come in and say like, oh my God, let me tell you this thing I hate about trans people. People in the community, they do this. Like, and it's not mean. It's just like you would if you're part of any community, you kind of go like, oh, this particular thing. And the therapist, a trans therapist like myself, will be like, yeah, I totally understand. We can kind of laugh about this. We can laugh at our own folks and kind of go like, yeah, and we love our community and like whatever, right? But I also personally, I bring a lot of laughter into therapy. I mean, I think there are so many times that, a client will kind of say a thing and I kind of look at them and I go, really? Like, like it just, I know they know that's like a thought they're having and it's a belief that they have. It may be like a historical trauma, but if I just kind of look at and then they'll start laughing, they'll be like, okay, I got it. Like, right. It might be like, it could be anything.
Yeah.
Everybody in my life hates me. And I'll be like, really? Like,
Right.
they got a sister that loves them and parents that adore them. And, and they know that too, but there is that belief that they have. And so those are moments where we can kind of laugh about like the absurdity of how our minds work and our beliefs and our emotions. And there's just lots of opportunity. I find myself laughing with clients a lot. And it does really help because if we take ourselves too seriously, if we take our transitions too seriously, not that our transitions are not serious, but there is a lot of joy and there's a lot of things that we can laugh about our community and our lived experiences. So, I find it to be really helpful because people can get like just stuck in the mire. They can just get stuck.
I completely agree. And my last question though was more around you, because obviously you've gone through a transition and you have a family and you have a lot of things going on outside of, that part of you, which isn't just the only thing that you bring to this world. And so how do you protect your own peace, right? Like, how do you recharge your spirit? How do you hold on to queer joy when, seemingly your work does get heavy?
Yeah, it's a good point. I really work a lot on my mind. I'll give you
Yeah.
an example of like the night Trump was reelected. And I'm going to bed and waking up the next morning and walking down my stairs and going, everybody hates me. Like looking at my front window and going like, all my neighbors want to kill me. Everybody hates me. And I just had to stop and go like, really? Like, like I can believe that right now, or I can go, the people out on my block who've never done anything unkind to me, probably don't even know I'm trans, but some of them do. Like nothing has really changed. So I do a lot of work with my own mind, like filtering what I let in, right? Like I have to know, especially running a right therapy, I have to know enough about what's happening in the trans community, but I just don't saturate myself in it. I really don't. I spend a lot of time, I work out, even though I've got kids, I work out, I take baths, I go spend time by myself, I read books, I just do as much as I can. An example would be like, right? Last year, I remember at some point I was just watching a lot of social medias about all the fear and all the things that are going to happen. And
It's dangerous.
Yeah.
and I just was like, my options are, what are my options, right? Like my options are to cut and run, leave the country, which isn't really like something that is viable for me personally. And I can live in total fear, or I can protect my mind and how much I let in. And so that's really what I do. I just don't let myself spend too much time in the future. Don't let myself spend too much time in the what ifs could happen, right? I know enough to know what the threats are, but not so much that I'm like, it breaks me down. The other thing, this is a side thing. We're talking about what are misconceptions about the trans community. We're talking about like having kids and whatever. Is that I think misconception about the trans community is that like there are these really weird people, and I was like, I think of myself as like the most normal person in the world. Right? I have a family, I have a job, I have like normal concerns. And most of my clients are like they work jobs and they have families and they have friends and they have issues with debt in their car and like at work, just like every other person. And I don't think that my trans identity is the biggest or most important piece of who I am. And I would say to people, I don't wake up every morning going like, wait, I'm trans. I woke up and trans.
Right.
Like nobody I know really does that. I think early in transition, sometimes it's a big focus for people, but for the most part, we're like just normal people, that have this like different experience going through life.
I think it's just so important to remember that we are all just people. I think that's something that we love celebrating on this podcast, showing all the amazing work that quote unquote just people are doing every day, regardless of the obstacles, the hills that they have to climb. Alexander, listen, I have to say, I've taken so much away from this conversation. I'm so grateful to you for it. We've loved the deep dive, but here at Out Loud and Laughing, we always like to shift things a little bit and get to the quick fire fun before we let our guests go. I love the attitude. I love the spirit. It's time for our signature game, This or That, the Arrive and Thriving edition. No overthinking. Just give us the first answer that hits your gut. Brian, you're first. Go for it.
Do you want explanations or no explanations? Just the answer.
Alexander, it's your world. We're just living in it.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Do you prefer a morning meditation or a late night vent session?
Morning meditation, for sure.
Going back to the alone part.
Yeah. Just like getting quiet. I would love that. I've got a little kid who comes and wakes me up, so I don't get that, but I would love that.
Plus one of that. Plus one.
Yeah. Couple more years, y'all. Or you could have gone my route. No kids. That's fun. All right. Moving right along. Are you into a digital copy of a magazine or the latest physical issue off the newsstand?
No.
Yeah. You don't read? Not at all? Not even like
I read books. I read a lot. Right now I'm reading a lot of books about business development. I read books about therapy, that type of stuff.
Kindle though, or are we like going for the hard copy?
Physical books.
Physical. Same.
Yeah.
Me too. I'm an old man that way.
Yep. I know.
Yeah, I like holding it. I like flipping the pages. It's just, I don't really do the digital reading.
True story. I just went to a candidate watch party the other night for the election. She won. Yay, we're happy. But on her table, she had all of these books. And I said, Lindsay, I said, can I have one of these books? She goes, oh my gosh, please take it. I love reading. I want to encourage it for everybody. I'm like, we need more people like you in the world. So I have a book that I'm so excited to pick up.
Yeah, I'm a very boring person, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, what can I do with my spare time? Like read a book, take a bath, go for a hike. And I was like,
love. Simple.
Love it.
All right. This one's an interesting one. And I'm interested in your take. In-person therapy or telehealth comfort?
Ooh.
In person, hands down for me. Yeah. I'm a better therapist in person, but I was like, I'm old school. I was trained that way. But I also just like, I love feeling my clients. Like I can often feel what my client is feeling in the room. Right. And I can often guide the conversation because I can actually feel what they're feeling. So I love in person.
Okay. In those in-person sessions, do you prefer a deep breakthrough or loud laughter?
I would say a deep breakthrough.
Yeah.
big fan. Like I always say, like I want people to come in. I want people to leave different than they came in. I feel like that's the goal. Like I want to move the needle somehow. And I feel really good when that happens, and I know when it's happening. Like the client usually does too, but it's like it's just a moment, and you're like something changed. Awesome.
And sometimes laughter follows right after because you're like,
Yeah,
it was so simple.
it's
After
funny.
all that.
I feel like sometimes I use the laughter to create that change. Right?
Uh-huh.
Laughter actually is like
Interesting.
great. It like almost allows people to leave their defenses that they have to really seeing something.
Good.
Yeah. So sometimes it goes hand in hand.
I think I know the answer to this one, but I'm still going to ask now. Do you prefer a coffee shop chat or a quiet walk in the park?
Quiet walk, for sure.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I figured.
Actually, therapists, we work with people all day, but almost every therapist is an introvert across the board. Like typically very quiet people.
I feel like they're all like,
That's right. Like we're always thinking about people and brains and emotions and things.
I'm a Scorpio, so all my friends are therapists. It works really well for us. So
It's really well for you, right? You're like,
oh yeah. Free care all around. Last question. We ask this to a lot of our guests. Would you rather be remembered for your advocacy or remembered for your heart?
that is a good question. I would say advocacy just off the top of my head.
You know,
Yeah.
I think they go hand in hand.
Very
too,
much
though.
like in action. I'm a doer. So I like to do and get things done.
Well, you're doing it.
You're definitely doing it.
Yeah.
Well, Alexander, thank you so much for your generosity, your heart, and the life-saving work you're doing every single day for our community. You are living proof that healing is possible and that our stories do matter.
100%. Chosen fam, please go support Alexander and the crucial work happening over at Arrive Therapy. Alexander, let us know. Where can everyone find you, connect with your practice, and follow your work online?
Yeah, arrivetherapy.com. And then our socials, I think Instagram is Arrive Therapy LLC. LinkedIn is Arrive Therapy. TikTok is Arrive Therapy. So it's pretty consistent across the board. I think our TikTok has the most following. So
Yes.
of our TikTok channel.
Go check it out. All right, Chosen fam. That's our show for today. Remember to stay loud, stay laughing, and keep holding space for one another. We love you, and we'll catch you in the next one. Bye, all.
Right. Thank you.
This was Out Loud and Laughing. We're available everywhere you get your podcasts. Spotify, Apple, YouTube, iHeart, or wherever.